Hello viewers and welcome to my blog for the Spanish Grand Prix 2013. Then the year has flown by so far, hasn't it? Up into the fifth race already, and back to Barcelona then, where we have the pre-season testing and a first chance for many of the teams to come back to a circuit they've already tested on with the current car and try out the data and put on new bits onto the car and development. Of course, this week it's been very important for McLaren. They've had a number of problems with the car throughout the season. It's been very public for them, their lack of form so far. And the Spanish Grand Prix was meant to be the Grand Prix where they were going to be on their way back up to the front. But it was clear earlier in the week that that wasn't going to be the case, and they still have work to do. However, they do still feel they're making progress, but it's clear that there are internal issues happening at McLaren, certainly with regards to working together, that's certainly hampering that. They have the people, they have the potential, and they have the investment to turn the team around. Hopefully they can as the season goes on, but it might be a little bit late for Jenson Button to mount his challenge on the title if they don't get it sorted within the next couple of races. On to the race then. Of course, we had Mercedes spectacular, or shall I say qualifying first, spectacular qualifying from Mercedes. I just wanted to highlight them really. I mean, locking out the front row over one lap, very quick, fantastic qualifying run from Nico Rosberg. Really is competitive between those two drivers this year, and it's great to see him up there doing a really good job. Onto the race. And the expectation was that Fernando Alonso would be right up there with Sebastian Vettel and that the tyres would fall apart on the Mercedes. Of course, around the first couple of corners and onto turn 3, of course, we had Vettel already up to second place and Fernando Alonso doing that move around the outside of Lewis Hamilton. A ballsy move and a good move which got him up there and put him in contention for the race. The race itself, obviously, there was a few incidents on the race. We had a poor start for Grosjean, I noted there, of course. He was out with broken suspension. It could have been by hitting a sausage curb, something like that. Anything there that can damage the suspension. A drive-through penalty for Pastor Maldonado. And, there were a few incidents in the race. But largely, after the first few corners, the race really was pretty much set. And then it was a case of who is where and how are their tyres actually going to perform throughout the long distance. And this raises the big issue, tyres. It's certainly the thing everybody's talking about today. Is it right that the tyres wear the way they do? Well, certainly the wear was excessive in Barcelona, and I think that that's something that Pirelli will need to look at. Before anyone says it's Pirelli's fault, I'll point out that it's not Pirelli's fault. Pirelli make the tyres as dictated to them by the FIA. And they bring those tyres to the race, and they say they want higher tyre degradation. That's what you get. Pirelli could make a tyre that never wore out, but then people will be saying, well, there's no skill in the driving for drivers who are good on their tyres as to those who aren't good on their tyres. So I think it's a real battle that you've got in trying to find a balance. I think we had it right early in the 90s. I think we had tyres back then where a driver could push very hard, and then it would mean perhaps an extra 2 or 3 laps where a tyre would hold in there compared to other drivers who would just burn them up, grain them, flat spot them, what have you. I mean, there's a lot more chance of flat spotting when you're actually pushing to the limit than there is when you're not. You're braking gently in the corners. I saw people braking with the gears and everything else, altering their brake balance to make it nice and smooth to get around corners. It really was more of a procession. They had speed there, but if they did, their tyres would fall apart in 2 laps, and that wasn't really going to work. So what do we need then? Well, firstly, we need, I'd say, 3 pit stops. 2 to 3 pit stops in a race need to be the strategies. I still feel that the sport is lacking without refuelling. I think refuelling added a lot in terms of strategy. You have the tyre strategy and you have the fueling strategy. It added so much to the race. Actual racing, actually putting the pits under pressure. Whereas at the moment, I think the tyres are dictating everybody's pace. And when you're hearing Lewis Hamilton, obviously the 2 Mercedes from the front row falling all the way back, Nico in 6th, Hamilton somewhere in 12th place. It's no good. He's saying, I can't go any slower. This is not Formula One. Formula One is about guys on the limit. Who's the fastest man out there? And we're not seeing that at the moment. So really, it's about if you've got a package that's good on your tyres, then you're going to be happy with the regulations. And I think certainly from Lotus's point of view and Ferrari's after the demonstration this weekend, they'll want the tyres and the regulations to stay exactly as they are for the rest of this season. Overall, a good race from Kimi, working his way through. Hard work for Nico Rosberg. Great job from Esteban Gutierrez. From 19th, he ended 11th and even led the race for 2 laps and put in the fastest lap of the race. Amazing. I think that shows actually how everyone else probably wasn't pushing as hard as they could do. He might have just used up his tyres at that point, but certainly a great result for him. A guy new to Formula 1 this year and under pressure to perform, done a good job. Jensen and Perez, his form has improved in these last couple of races. I think Perez could have got past Jensen. McLaren are saying they didn't hold station, but give or take, they probably did. It wasn't really worth the hassle. Perez may not have been able to get past any cars in front. Either way, McLaren need development data at the moment. Coming in 7th isn't going to win world championships, so they need the points there for the team if they're going to develop the car this season and, all importantly, next season as well. Now, the team technical directors are juggling between this year and next year. There was some discussion of that in the technical director press conference. We wait and see how those developments take place. Many of them have already designed their cars and they're waiting for the final engines and the size and then the weight displacement and everything else going on. It's amazing how much work goes into these cars. You know, they've been working on them for some time already. Next year is a big year and a big change for Formula 1. Is it a good change? Is it going to be a good thing next year? You know, I honestly don't know. There's so many pros and cons. We won't know until we see the cars line up on the grid, how they perform and how it tests the drivers. I just wonder if it's going to test the engineers more than it's going to test the drivers, or if the drivers ultimately are just passengers in the car, depending on who makes the fastest engine. And that is the biggest concern at the moment. Back to the race then, obviously. A dominating victory for Ferrari. Obviously we had a great race for Felipe Massa as well in 3rd place. Kimi Räikkönen, really solid 2nd place. Those guys were just miles ahead of everyone. I think Fernando lapped everyone up to 9th place by the end of the race. So an easy victory for him. It turned into being in front of his home crowd. A very important victory as well. And Kimi moves up in the championship. Close with those top few teams. Certainly for the other teams that are out there, Williams, they were here and there, but they're still struggling, not really getting anywhere. The Toro Rosso seems to be ups and downs at different phases of the race, but it certainly seems to have some speed there. And Daniel Ricciardo having some action there, battling his way through the pack as well. But at the moment, it is all about the tyres. This was a race about the tyres, and I think there's going to be a lot of discussion following this. I'd like to hear your opinion on what you would do on the tyres, how many stops you would like to see, what you'd like to see the drivers do, and how you'd like to see the sport adapt to it. But that's it for me for the Spanish Grand Prix. A couple of weeks' time, we've got Monaco. Again, it'll be interesting to see how these new tyres adapt to Monaco this year. It could actually make a better Monaco Grand Prix having these tyre stops than not, because it normally is a very dull race when you've got strong tyres and someone's in the lead. So interesting to see. Qualifying will be all important there as well. And of course, more from me, as ever, very soon. And viewers, here you see some other links to other videos I've done earlier this year with my Formula 1 blogs. Do check those out, and as ever, there'll be more from me throughout the season on the world of Formula 1.